Web3.tv.
In a world where artificial intelligence is reshaping industries at unprecedented pace, the big question becomes, how can companies harness AI as a tool not only for efficiency, but as a way to drive real measurable value for customers, employees, and the overall business? To help us break this down and explore the opportunities ahead, we are joined by Jigar Sagar, a serial entrepreneur, investor, and businessman with over 2 decades of experience. He is one of the driving forces behind the company Trivliv Holdings and 30 other ventures, which today has a combined value of over $300 million. He's also supported thousands of entrepreneurs in building and scaling their businesses. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me here.
And you've helped so many entrepreneurs when it comes to digital transformation, business consultancy, but also for today's topic, in leveraging AI to create value-driven strategies and empowering them in a competitive market like Dubai. So my first question to you is, as AI is rapidly evolving, many people are looking into implementing AI into their business models. But what are the critical factors that companies must consider when implementing AI?
I think firstly, let's understand how AI matters to business. AI is not here to take away people's job. AI is not here to replace human logical thinking. AI is effectively anything and everything that can assist business in either increasing their revenues, improving their efficiencies, driving the costs down, or just giving a better customer experience, right? So from that perspective, I think AI in a business world should be focused on anything and everything that can achieve those outcomes and goals.
So when you're advising companies, how do you sort of break it down for them, and what kind of advice are you giving people when they want to scale their businesses and using AI as a tool?
When it comes to one particular business as such, the only way to implement AI is not by first looking at the tool and then seeing where it can be used, but it's the other way around. Every company needs to understand what is its own process flow. Now, within its own process flow, if there are customer touch points, what tools can you use to improve your customer touch points? I mean, a simple one today would be email communication, WhatsApp notifications. But guess what? That's just a channel. Now, how do you incorporate a channel called chatbot as a part of that touch point? It isn't the other way around that, okay, there's a chatbot. How do I just bring it into my business? What if you don't chat with your customers? What are you doing with that tool? So I think it's important that you look at your existing business process flow and see where can you bring in, whether it's bringing in efficiencies and workflows. So if there's a particular workflow which is manually being driven in there, how do you automate it? Or you could actually impose machine learning on your workflow to firstly see how can you make your workflow more efficient. So it's a bit more complex than saying, okay, there's these 5-10 tools out there in the market. Let's see how can we all incorporate them because everyone else is doing it. But if you're going to be focused on what value is something bringing to the table, it's the same reason. Why do you do a business? To solve a problem, not to do a business.
So it should be the same when it comes to
Correct.
AI, right?
Yeah.
And you speak a lot about hyper-personalization through AI. So how can companies achieve this without compromising on consumer trust or even privacy?
So when you talk about privacy, I mean, the data that is out there is the one which is being voluntarily put out there by the customer. But when you are talking about a digital footprint, you personalize the content to show how are you effectively solving that customer's problem, because that's the business you're in. The business you're in is either solving someone's problem or fulfilling their needs. Now, if I can understand what exactly is your problem, because it might be different to the rest of the customers at a micro level, and it's about reaching that micro problem and solving that problem for you. And that's when businesses will start seeing massive wins.
I think that's true. But many businesses today, they use bots, for example, in customer service oriented businesses. But it almost, I've used some bots sometimes, but it almost feels that you are not getting your problem solved. So how can companies really personalize these services so that the customer really does feel that they're getting the help they needed as if it was a human?
The biggest challenge you have with the bot scenario is, again, going down to preferences. There are individuals out there who don't want to talk to a human being. They want to press buttons. And then there's a portion of the human being species which wants to actually interact with a human being immediately, and they do not want to talk to an IVR or a bot or etc. Are we giving this choice to the customer? Are we predicting what is the choice of that customer? No. So it's, again, if you're trying to basically give a solution without understanding what is the preference or the problem on the other side, you're not going to have happy customers 100%. You're going to make a few happy, but you also then that means going to make a few unhappy. So from a chatbot experience perspective, I think it's really important to understand that as humans, not everyone likes that, but then there are those who only want that. And then it's to cater to what one wants.
Yeah. So it's, like you said, very hyper-personalized.
Correct.
And there was something I wanted to ask you about, because you do talk about value-driven strategies. So if, let's say, a company implements a value-driven strategy with AI, how much money can they save, or what kind of measurables does this successfully show in the balance sheets?
Now, this actually is one of the biggest problem why companies are struggling to adapt AI, because you're not able to, at this point at least, effectively measure what is the ROI expected. And I don't think there's a problem with AI or the tools in order to do that. I think the problem is in the approach. If you are going to approach it from a perspective of, say, I'm going to bring in a tool and I don't know why and what and how am I going to use it, but I know everyone else is doing it, so I better get onto it, you won't really be able to make a data-driven decision. But on the other flip side, if you look at your existing process flows, you look at your existing costs, you look at your existing revenue, you look at your existing customer engagement levels, your customer CSAT scores, for example. Now, if I introduce a chatbot, do my CSAT scores go up or down? What is the correlation between my CSAT scores and my customer retention? Now, these are actual measurable items. But if you're just going to look at a tool out there and try to implement it, good luck.
Yeah, you need to sort of understand what it is you actually want to achieve with AI, right?
What are you doing in your business?
Yeah.
I think there are many ways where you can actually improve the engagement, you can improve your revenue, you can actually reduce your costs, but these cannot be applicable to any and every business. It actually has to be thought of from a strategy perspective, wherein it's a part of your business strategy, and AI is now just one more tool that you have at your disposal.
With AI, it allows people that, let's say, have had business ideas that they've been kind of scared to implement. AI kind of helps these people to implement these ideas into action. And you, who have helped thousands of entrepreneurs, how do you see entrepreneurship evolving in the UAE with the use of AI?
So I think with the introduction of AI, there are two different segments that are being created. One is there's a whole segment of entrepreneurs that are emerging on the market which are creating those AI tools, whether it is products and services that are being offered to government solutions, whether it is smart cities, whether it is fintech, edtech, healthcare platforms. So you have a lot of new entries into the market as entrepreneurs that are actually creating tools that can be catered for specific sectors and industries. Now, on the flip side, what's also happening is there's a lot of entrepreneurial motivation in the city, especially Dubai, where we're at the forefront and we're encouraging the adoption of AI, saying earlier it was very difficult and costly for me to, let's say, put up a clinic. Today, I could create a healthcare platform, which could then translate to health tourism on a broader level, because now the government is supporting us. The hotels are coming in and becoming a part of it. So Dubai no longer is just a tourist hotspot. It actually becomes a hotspot also for healthcare tourism, for example. So you're also seeing a lot of new entrepreneurs entering existing markets, but with the new innovative ideas. Now, how do I bring AI tools to streamline this as much as possible?
That's actually really interesting. I know there was a case study where they were using AI for people that, let's say, had suffering from loneliness, from depression, and when a patient or a person wrote that they wanted to, let's say, commit suicide or something, the chat GPT or the GPT went into survivor mode and tried to save the person. So it acts sort of as this tool where it can, let's say in healthcare, it could help the patient before it gets, let's say, the doctor's help.
Correct. I mean, it's again the idea of saying it's got immense powers, but then it all boils down to what data it is working with.
Of course.
So we have to be a little bit careful. It's like back in the day when you would search on the web for something, it was naturally expected that that must be accurate information, till we had enough inaccurate information on the web where probably it's more inaccurate information than accurate. So now everyone's like, okay, what's even real out here? I think with AI, it's the same challenge in terms of how much data exists on the web out there, which is accurate and inaccurate. And because it's feeding anything and everything from an analytical perspective from this data, which is a digital footprint that we're all leaving behind every day, if you leave behind enough inaccurate data footprint, and if you start believing that this color is not red and it's blue, and you feed it enough times that this is what blue is, it will start accepting that as blue.
Because it's still not a human.
It's still not a human. That's one of the biggest challenge, even for businesses' perspective, is the database structure. They need to look at their own database. They need to look at their own data sets. They need to look at anything and everything which could be effectively a data, whether it's any email communications, whether it's any WhatsApp communications, whether it's any internal ERP usages. So from a business perspective, it is looking at your data sets, your data structure, and working with it and putting certain models that can be trained on your existing data, historic data, to then create and improve on for predictive analysis for your own specific business. And these models need to be trained continuously because human behavior patterns, customer patterns, employee patterns, they keep changing.
What are the main risks if, let's say, you don't do that?
Someone else is doing it and you will no longer be in business in a short span of time, because the rapid speed with which technology is evolving, it boils down to basically how quickly is the processing power improving, right? It's exponentially growing. It's not incremental. You could be in the healthcare or the education or journalism, whichever industry you might be in. But if you don't use these tools to make your business more efficient, you're gonna go bust.
Yeah, and you're going to be behind. As an advisor for many or as a business consultant for many businesses, how much should a company spend on AI and as an investment?
I don't think a company should, unless you're in the business of creating AI tools, I don't think you should spend anything per se as a percentage of your income on AI tools. I think the way it should work is look at, so we're going to talk about, as an example, for a traditional business or any other business which is not out there creating AI tools, right? Let's say you're in a journalism field. You're going to look at how your business works, where there's human interventions that can be automated, where there are actions that require predictive analysis from a customer perspective, where is it that you're using certain content writers, etc. How do you do a cost benefit analysis of your existing workflow? Or let's say if you're starting it from scratch, saying that, okay, if I'm going to hire 2 people, this is what it's going to cost me. If I'm going to bring in this particular AI tool because that's what's out there in the market, which actually gets the work done, this is the cost. Do a cost benefit analysis from our comparison, and you're going to go with the one which actually gives you better performance.
Just like you mentioning how the technology is evolving so fast, I want to finally ask you about how can companies sort of stay ahead of the curve when it comes to this rapid transformation?
As entrepreneurs, what I think everyone needs to focus on and not lose track of is whatever may be the business you may be doing, if you're going to be using tools to bring efficiencies in, stop considering just traditional tools. You need to now start considering AI-based tools. So make sure that the tools or even any technologies that you use for your business have at least the ability to have API integrations, are AI enabled, have certain baseline structures which enable you to tomorrow incorporate more AI tools. And that's the baseline which I think you can then scale up from.
Also, just finally, what are you most excited about? I know that you have you've helped so many businesses here in the UAE, and the UAE is such has attracted so many companies when it comes to AI. So what are you most excited about when it comes to AI and entrepreneurship?
So personally, I think because I love government services, I'm just like really excited about all these initiatives from the government itself, which is not just in regards to funding or giving a sandbox environment to AI companies here in the UAE, but I think what is truly exciting also is the talent pool. So one of the biggest challenge for AI is lack of talent. There are not enough people who understand this. There isn't enough education out there. There isn't enough people who can train business people about what is AI and how to incorporate it and how to make sensible decisions in surrounding these tools. I think what's really exciting is like your initiatives like the MBZU AI, for example, a university which is catered to giving this kind of knowledge, hence the ability to create a talent pool. Because I think ultimately the success of AI will depend on people,
Yeah, of course.
the people who will have the knowledge of how to use it and how to improve it. And I think that's what I'm looking forward to, which is saying, what's the educational pool out there? What's the market out there which is actually improving on this talent and growing this and nurturing this talent?
Yeah, and seeing if we can find another unicorn like OpenAI or something like that.
Oh, absolutely. Because if unicorns are going to emerge only in places where there is abundant talent, I mean, without talent, you can't have a unicorn. So it's really exciting times from that perspective.
It will be very interesting to see what happens. And it was a pleasure speaking with you. And thank you so much for coming on to Web3 Talks.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
And that's all that we had for you today. My name is Lisa Amnegard, and you're watching Web3 Talks.
Web3.tv